Can you imagine what it would have been like to live in Iron Age Scotland and see everything you had destroyed around about you? What would you do next? If you're interested in the people, places and events in Scottish history, then click the subscribe button at the bottom right of the screen. And if you enjoy this video, then give it a thumbs up at the end and share it with other people like you. In the meantime, let me tell you a story. This is Loch Tay. I've said it before and I'll say it again. This is one of my favourite places in the world. One of the things that I always loved about this place was the opportunity to go back in time. In the Iron Age, this whole area bustled with activity, and many of the people who lived here lived in crannogs, big houses out in the water of the loch. Sometimes, as you pass along the side of a loch, you can see how the remains of a collapsed crannog has seeded and become a little island near to the shore. But can you imagine what it would be like to be living on one of those crannogs as it caught fire and turned into a blazing inferno, as everything you'd built turned to ashes? That would have been a danger in the Iron Age, but it was a reality here on the 11th of June 2021 as the Scottish Crannog Centre disappeared. As far as we know, around Loch Tay in ancient times there were 17 crannogs. But I used to love visiting the one that they recreated here back in the 90s. With the information gleaned from underwater archaeologists at the Oakbank Crannog, 3 miles up the loch that way, they recreated this crannog in wonderful detail, just as it would have been in those Iron Age times. Sadly, in 2021, the crannog burned to the ground. Investigations haven't been able to work out the cause of a blaze that destroyed this fantastic Iron Age building in under 10 minutes. We know that it wasn't arson, although who's to say that might not have been a threat back in the day? We know that it wasn't an electrical fault. All that's left of the crannog are the stakes in the water where it sat. A sad reminder of the gateway that we used to be able to travel to an Iron Age world. Of course, Scotland is a land of mythical and mystical beasts, particularly when it comes to lochs. And this loch has seen a phoenix rise from the ashes. Come with me. If you were an Iron Age farmer and your crannog burned down around you, what would you do? You'd probably start all over again, but this time you'd want to do it better. And here on the north side of Loch Tay, within sight of where the crannog used to stand, what they're doing is even better than before. As we go through, there's a museum where you can see some of the wonderful archaeological finds from the long sunken Oakbank Crannog that helps us to understand how people were living in the Iron Age. From the food that they ate, the textiles that they used, to metalwork that was being done. And even musical instruments that they played. But outside, there's an entire Iron Age village. There's a blacksmith's hut, a weaver's hut, a woodworking hut, and a hut for cooking. Now, these huts are all interpretations. We don't know for sure that huts in a local Iron Age village would have looked quite like the ones round about us. But the team of craftsmen and experimental archaeologists here have used the knowledge that they gained from the finds to inform their thinking and to imagine things as they might have been, using the techniques that would have been available at the time and the materials that would be found around about the area. So everything you see in this village has come from the local area. And there's not a modern screw, nut or bolt to be found anywhere. But each building has a different design because they involved different people with different interpretations. They all had the same remit of using the knowledge and techniques discovered from the archaeology, but they've used the techniques in different ways to come up with a variety of possible structures. That's why all the buildings have slightly different roofs or walls or shapes. This is living experimental archaeology. Not only are the buildings built with traditional techniques and technology, but they'll be maintained that way until they reach the end of their life. And just like our Iron Age ancestors would have, they'll then rebuild on a different part of the site. But if you're looking for genuine authenticity, then one hut whose shape we know is the roundhouse. Whilst the design of other buildings come from interpretation, this roundhouse comes from the excavation of another roundhouse site called Carndoo, a wee bit further to the east. So when you step inside, you get the feel of what it would have been like to live in Iron Age Scotland. In its day, this may have been a gathering hall, and it's used on the site here as a place of storytelling. I suppose a bit like a ceilidh house in later Highland tradition. But the entrance reveals something as well. You see, the house that this is modelled on was one of 14 structures close to each other just northeast of where Pitlochry is today. And that cluster of 14 buildings were part of a total of 81 buildings over the wider area. One of the things they found was that while some buildings had single walls, others had double walls, just like this one. Now, it's been assumed that in some places these double walls were part of an Iron Age cavity wall insulation system. But in this particular excavation, we know that that wasn't the case, because between the inner and the outer wall, they found little post holes. So they think it may have been used to create a shell structure, just like this one. That's why they created a woven inner shell to this building. Of course, this is all experimental archaeology. We should probably go and see Izzy. Izzy!
Hello.
Listen, I used to love the Crannog over the water before the fire. But what I really love about this site is the scope it gives you to experiment and investigate different kind of things.
Definitely. So at the old site, we were of course very, very small. Very small. We had the Crannog and we had some little areas where we did a few experiments, but not really very many experiments at all. But what we have on our new site, we've got an area where we've got cooking, we've got blacksmithing, we've got woodworking, we've got textiles, we've got a recreated roundhouse.
You've got an animal farm. What dogs barking?
Oh, I was going to say, I was like, where did this come from? Goodness me. I have been saying we should get some goats on the roof.
Yeah.
But apparently we're not allowed to. But what we have here is a space where we can actually do experiments. So we've got a collection of over 1,000 artefacts. And a lot of the time, people say something is one thing. We do not do that here at all. I hate the word replica as well, as another thing. I don't think we can replicate, personally, I don't think we can replicate anything from prehistory because we don't know the people. They've not told us how to do anything. We don't have the knowledge. We don't have the technologies that they had. We can make reconstructions and recreations, but not replicas.
Yes.
But we can test theories, which is the most important thing. So, for example, in textiles, I do a lot of work in textiles. And in every book you read about how to do a woad dye to make blue, it says that male urine is better. But
oh no!
It's not, no. So I found out a couple of years ago that me and my friend did a woad dye, and we have to use urine for this dye. So we use our own.
Yeah.
So he did a pot of his urine, I did a pot of my urine.
Yeah.
I got a darker blue,
Did
and
you?
he got a lighter blue.
Yours should be pink, and his should be
Well,
for the
you'd think.
toothbrushes.
But the reason mine was darker was because I had alcohol in my system. If I don't test these theories out, then we're not going to get a true understanding.
So it's not male or female, it's who's consumed the most alcohol.
Yeah, basically. And it was a great experiment to do.
Yeah.
But it's just trying to.
And you
test
genuinely
theories.
are a pishhead.
Yeah. Yeah. It's what I do on my weekends, weekdays even sometimes if I'm not working.
Oh, that's fantastic to get that wee bit of insight for you. But people, when they come here, they can explore, they can talk to you more.
Oh, yes.
And get a feel for all the things going on this site.
And make a pot.
And they can make a pot! There you go! Oh, brilliant!
Put some mead in it.
Fantastic. All the better for making woad dye.
I'll leave a pot for you.
Brilliant. Cheers. I've got a pot! It was fantastic to have the chance to speak to Izzy here, and it's fabulous to wander around an entire village, just as you might have done back in the Iron Age times. Now, this is just one of the places that I brought folks when I took 25 people on an 11-day tour of Scotland recently. The good news is that I'm going to be taking another 2 groups in 2025. In addition to this marvellous place, I'll take you to where the people who would have occupied this place worship nearby. I'll take you down to Hadrian's Wall. We'll travel the Scottish borders to abbeys and battlefields. We'll visit stately homes, including a personal tour with Lord Bruce, the descendant of our warrior king. You'll see the scenery of the West Highlands and Skye and so much more. I'll leave a link to click top right and in the description below so that you can find out about all my tours, or if in doubt, email alexis@scotlandhistorytours.co.uk. But there's something more exciting that might even be finished when you come here. Let me show you. Matt, hold my pot. Now you might be thinking that the one thing that the Crannog Centre's missing is a crannog. But that is about to change. Now, if you look out in the distance, you might not quite be able to see, peeking out of the water, Mary's distaff. It's the rubble and remains from a long collapsed crannog, but closer to the shore, work's starting on building a new crannog that you'll be able to visit. The posts are rising from the water like a phoenix from the proverbial ashes. Loch Tay is one of my favourite places, and the Scottish Crannog Centre is a truly magical place where you can take a step back to feel how our ancestors lived. If you enjoyed this video, then there's another video that I've made about Scotland's prehistory that you really should watch, and it's coming up on screen now. Support the channel by clicking top right to become a Patreon member, or buy me a coffee in the description below. In the meantime, ha mi an dóchas gwn bí a lam alaith. Shéri an drasta.